Hello everyone, back to today's third video. We're going to have a look at the GFS Ensembles, tonight's third video. Earlier on today we did 5-day forecast. You can find the written version to that via a button at the top of the page. Also did a video this afternoon looking at weather next week to 10 days. And that's on the homepage. Just scroll down to the link ads. As I say, this is going to be having a look at the GFS Ensembles, which is going to take us into the second half of January. So through the course of today, we've gone from sort of 1 to 5 days, 5 to 10 days, and then this is going to go beyond that into 2 weeks away. So we'll see if there's any sign of colder conditions. I've had a fairly cold run of GFS operational model show up this evening. I'll talk you through that very quickly before I get on with the ensembles. We'll see whether we've got any support from the GFS in a moment. Before I get on with that, just very quick to say about the ads. There's links to articles on the pages. Have a browse, visits, click through links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you help your space for our website. Thanks very much for doing that. So we'll start off with the operational run of the GFS. As I say, we've had quite a cold one appear tonight. This is how we're looking on Wednesday, a week away, bring down a northwesterly flow. And then low pressure deepens to the north of Scotland on Thursday, and eventually pulls down this strong and very cold northerly wind by Friday the 13th of January. Probably going a bit over the top, but we're keeping that cold northerly wind through into Saturday the 14th, and then on to Monday the 16th. We're staying cold with the winds remaining from the north or even from the northeast, and we do get a bit of a ridge building to the north of Scotland there on the 17th of January. 300 hours away, it's a long way off, but it is showing a bit of a bridge from the high pressure in the Atlantic to the Scandinavian high. That's turning winds into the north and the northeast, and we'll be bringing cold air down across the country as well. So a pretty cold update from the GFS tonight for the middle part of January. But does it have any support from its ensemble? So I'll take you through each member. There's 20 of these to go through, plus the control. We'll start off with the control, which is running a slightly lower resolution to the operational run of the GFS. And this is how we go through, of course, next week. You do get a bit of a northerly blast coming through there, again around the 13th, 14th, bit of a northerly, but we aren't building that ridge up like we do on the operational run. So it's coldish there as we run through the middle part of January, but eventually we're returning back to a westerly flow. It just looks quite unsettled and Atlantic driven, not overly cold, but we do get a bit of a swipe from the north on the control run of the GFS there around the 13th and the 14th and the 15th of January. Let's have a look at ensemble member number 1 then. This is how we start off on the 12th, bringing down that northwesterly flow. But wind turns into the north there through the 14th into 15th. More low pressure coming off the Atlantic on the 15th, and that continues into the second half of the month. Looks like a bit of an Atlantic onslaught. Not desperately cold again, but there are some cold conditions in there at times. Excuse me, nothing sustained though, as we see with the GFS operational. This ensemble member number 2, and this one looks very Atlantic driven, not particularly cold either. This one is quite mild actually, with the wind tending to come in from more of a westerly, southwesterly part of the Atlantic Ocean. Ensemble member number 3 looks like this, again, a bit of a push from the north around the 13th into the 14th of January, and then we build up a big ridge out in the northern Atlantic through the 16th into the 17th. Signs of high pressure building around Greenland there, and turning the winds properly into the north or the northeast. So here we go again with the GFS ensembles. We was looking at these before Christmas, looking at these over the Christmas period. At all times they were suggesting the chance of colder weather, which has never really come off. They're still at it. We've still got some colder members here showing up tonight. Ensemble member number 4, that one looks quite cold as well, quite a big northerly there around the 14th into the 15th, and then what happens is that we bring the Atlantic back eventually, but it's a slow old process really there for ensemble member number 4. Generally that's quite a cold one again. So member number 5 looking like this. So this is another cold one. Big area of low pressure coming down across the country there around the 14th of January, turning the winds into the east. Bitterly cold easterly winds coming through and then it stays generally quite cold with risk of some snow there as we're running up into the second half of the month. That's ensemble member number 5. Ensemble member number 6 showing again quite a northerly push, build of pressure developing out to northwest. These look like cold ensembles tonight so far. What we see, high pressure there to the north, and the wind is in from the east. So yeah, I think we would be seeing some pretty cold weather coming up over the middle part of January. Let's have a look and see what ensemble member number 7 has to say. So on the 12th of January, we're in this westerly flow, and then again another push from the north there as we're going up towards the middle part of January. Quite a northerly blast comes through. This one, again, we're building a ridge there out to the north and west of the country, so the winds go into the north and the northeast. That looks like a cold middle part of January with some wintry potential most definitely there with ensemble member number 7. These do look like quite cold ensembles tonight. Number 8 is looking like this, and again we do get a bit of a northerly flow there around the 14th into the 15th, but then the wind backs to the southwest for a time. However, pressure's still generally high out to west and still with the wind direction coming from the north. So that one looks like a fairly cold one, albeit not as cold as some of the ensemble members that we've been looking at. Number 9 has us in a northwesterly flow on the 12th, and they're going to a northerly flow by the 14th. Then we're back to westerlies again, which are reasonably mild, and then another push from the north, and then back to westerlies again. So that's sort of alternating air masses there for the middle part of January. At times we're in colder northerly winds, at times we're in milder westerly winds with ensemble member number 9. Number 10 has high pressure down to the southwest, and then we stay generally quite westerly and not overly cold for this. So that's a milder one, ensemble member number 10, which tells us that there is the chance that we won't get these northerly winds through the middle part of January. Let's see what number 11 has to say. And that one is building pressure generally around and to the south of the UK. So no northerly winds really with that. We do get a brief swipe from the north there around the 13th, but it doesn't last very long. We're soon back into high pressure type conditions, so a lot of dry and settled weather with number 11. Number 12 looking like this, and this one looks cold again. We've got low pressure diving southeastwards there through the middle part of January. So by the 16th into 17th, we're into a really cold northeasterly wind with high pressure out to the west of the country. And then we stay cold running up towards the 20th of January as far as we can go. Looks like it's pretty cold through that middle point of the month. We're on ensemble number 12. Number 13, again, diving low pressure. This is a recurring theme through this middle part of January. We get this low pressure diving southwards down across the country with pressure building behind it. This one actually turning the winds into the east. That looks quite cold. And we stay cold there running up to the 20th of January with ensemble member number 13. A lot of these are trending cold tonight. We go through to number 14, and that's very similar again. The wind's going into the northeast via this diving area of low pressure around the 14th, 15th. I mean, it's staying quite cold, although the westerlies are re-establishing there later on. So not quite as prolonged with cold weather on number 14, but certainly some cold weather in there. Number 15, again, northerly winds coming through around the 14th, 15th of January, and pressure building behind, and then westerlies re-establishing, so that one's a milder one. But again, there is a northerly in there around the 14th and the 15th of January. So member number 16 showing westerlies, quite stormy conditions coming through around the 14th. And then wind going into the north, there's pressure rising around the country into the second half of the month. Nothing desperately cold doing with that one, but it is fairly cold actually around the 14th, 15th. It's not sustained on this one. But a few days of pretty cold weather there for ensemble member number 16. Number 17, again, looks quite stormy briefly around the 13th and 14th of January. Then that high pressure builds in from the west. Again, this one's not particularly cold. Milder air is coming around the top, especially to Scotland. Number 18 has low pressure coming through, quite stormy on the 13th of January. And then we run beyond that and we get a build of pressure over Scandinavia on this. So this was a little bit different with the winds getting into the east. That looks like it's trying to drag in some Siberian air with number 18. That's very different to anything that we've seen so far. Number 19, our penultimate one, has that diving area of low pressure again around the 13th, 14th of January. That clears away to the south and turns the winds into the north, so this is a much colder one again. Then northeasterly is coming through, and we stay cold right at the very end of the run with ensemble member number 19, eventually with an easterly coming through. And finally, number 20 shows low pressure, very stormy conditions around the 13th. That looks pretty horrendous, really. That low pressure clears away to the east, and eventually, yes, we're turning winds into the north or northeast again, and eventually we set up a Scandinavian high, and some bitterly cold easterly winds start to develop. They're cold ensembles tonight. There's very few that we've seen that are mild from start to finish. Most of them have some sort of northerly at some point, either ranging from a day or two around the 13th, 14th, or extending cold weather through that middle period of January into the second half of the month. Now, we're going to take this with a lot of caution because we looked at these ensembles before Christmas when they was indicating colder conditions over Christmas. We looked at the ensembles after Christmas when they was indicating cold weather for the new year, and nothing really has verified. So now they're still at it, and this time they're doing it for the middle part of January and second half of the month. It might be that yet again this won't come to anything, but whilst the ensembles are still showing this so consistently, we do have to take it seriously. We may just get a brief northerly around the middle part of the month, or we might be on the start of some proper winter weather. Let's wait and see how things trend, but some really interesting charts there within the GFS ensembles again tonight. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.